When we hit the 10,000 mark, because we hit 10,000 subscribers in 3 days, I remember.
3 days, 10,000. From what to what?
From zero.
From 0 to 10,000.
10,000
in 3 days.
Yes, and that was such a big milestone for us. And it's just been, now with the consistency, continuous growth over and over, the subscribers keep growing, we keep now learning.
This is something that I've not had in a long time. From 0 to 10K, that is amazing. In 3 days, that is really amazing.
With me today is a very interesting couple. They are very successful in the area of YouTube. And on my immediate right, I have Joan and Ben. Welcome, Joan and Ben.
Thank you so much for having us. We are so happy to be here. And I think this is an interesting conversation that needs to be had more and more, especially in the spaces of faith. And this is a good thing. And thank you for having me on Faith TV today.
Yeah. I'm excited to be here, to learn and also to share the knowledge that we've acquired.
Welcome very much, Ben and Joan. On my immediate left is Enoch. Enoch, you can introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I'm very excited to have Cycos right here. You can tell my smiles. I really powered up. I believe your life is not going to remain the same. These are podcast award winners. My God, it's very exciting. No young person should really miss this discussion today. And those of you who are really into digital marketing, these are experts in the field. So if you change your dial, you lose. Don't lose this.
Don't do it.
Thank you very much, Enoch.
Yeah.
Let me come back to ladies first.
Okay.
Let me go to Joan.
Sure.
Joan, tell us about yourself and how you got into social media.
Okay, so I think I was in uni. I was in my last year of university. I think that was about 2015, about 9 years ago. I was trying to find my footing in after school. What do I want to do? What career do I want to pursue? And then that's when my friends and I stumbled on this thing called YouTube. I know we'd been following different YouTubers. They're called YouTubers across the world. And it hadn't really picked up here in Kenya. So we were like, maybe this is something we can explore. And that's how I stumbled on it, really. It was by fluke and by exploration.
Do you regret?
No. It's been exciting. I mean, so many learning curves. I'm trying to chart the path in a place where it's not really known, especially on the business and how to monetize it, the business side of it. But all in all, it's been really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Currently, around how many subscribers do you have?
So we ran a podcast together. And that's about 69K subscribers.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where we're at.
That's such a huge subscriber base.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you. God has been good.
Then, how has been your journey?
Yes.
Then, how did you get yourself into this space?
So for me, it was it's like I just found myself here. But before I started off as a musician, started singing immediately after high school. That's like I left high school in 2010. You know, nowadays when I go to speak in universities and I tell them I left high school in 2010, I look so old, because some of them left high school in 2018, So I left high school in 2010, started singing in 2011. But later on, when we started going out with John, she started considering the idea of creating content on YouTube for herself, and I thought that was a pretty good idea. So I was already on YouTube as a musician, but I had never considered being on YouTube as a creator. So I started joining her videos where we would do funny things and people would just love them completely. So when we got married in 2021, we decided to start a show together. Instead of having a joint YouTube channel, we decided maybe we have more to offer the people, and our biggest strong point was speaking. So we decided maybe we can start something called a podcast. So we started the Joyride podcast, which now has around 70,000 subscribers. Now, Wanjiru, she didn't tell you, she on her personal page she has 50,000 subscribers. On my personal page I have 50,000 subscribers, and then we also have followers on our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and that's where our journey of podcasting together started. But before that, I had my own individual podcast. It was called the Cyco podcast, which I started in 2020 during COVID. So during COVID, I was working at a radio station. I just quit, and I decided maybe it's time for me to start my own. And it was just a strong conviction from God, you know. And I guess I didn't know that kumbe in the atmosphere, there was this shift that was happening in the digital space. So I just quit the work because I felt like I'm not fulfilling my purpose here. So when I started doing the show, just by talking to people about what they're going through, sharing my personal journey, that is what gave birth to this whole podcast thing. Now we became some of the first people to do podcasting in this country, and to actually do it as a full-time career.
So might be somebody there asking, what's a podcast as opposed to what is YouTube?
A podcast. Now where do you start? Podcast is like, what's a podcast?
It's new age. I would define it as new age radio.
Okay.
So think about your traditional radio station, but now the power goes back to you who's creating. So it's an audio visual kind of. You could choose for it. It's predominantly audio, but over time people have incorporated it to be audio visual because of the way YouTube has spread and its distribution kwa mashinani. So it becomes an audio visual platform.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're present on how many social media platforms? You said YouTube?
Across, because I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. And all of them have a huge following. TikTok, I'm on Spotify as a musician and as a podcaster.
Yeah.
I'm on all streaming platforms that you can know of that are audio, and that is Apple Podcast as well, and YouTube as well.
Okay. Before we go and delve into YouTube, maybe you can explain to people, why are you present in all these social media platforms? What's the importance? What are the synergies? Which ones came first? Which ones are most profitable? Which one, you know, so that then we then come to YouTube.
I think the distribution on different platforms, it's really about meeting the consumer at the point where they are. There are people who prefer Facebook, there are people who prefer Instagram, there are people who prefer TikTok, there are people who prefer YouTube, Spotify. So it's really just, you want your content to get to as many people as possible. So that's why we distribute across several platforms. In terms of profitability, it really depends. I know there are some people who are, it really depends on where you put your efforts to. For us, YouTube, Spotify, of course, because of the podcast, and then Instagram are our biggest earners. But I know friends of the industry who TikTok becomes a big earner, Facebook. So it's really where you put your efforts to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if somebody is launching into social media today, a young person, and we in this channel we talk to a lot of young people. From your experience, where would you advise them to start? Is it TikTok? Because I tend to think that's what is resonating with the young people today. Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook? Is it YouTube?
This whole thing of social media really first of all, it stems from what you feel God is calling you to do, or what God is calling you to say. I don't think you waking up and saying you want to start making money, so you open a YouTube account, that would be that's the final thing that you need to do, because these are just mediums of getting to the people, you know. So it's like saying you want to start a newspaper company and you are not a writer, and even if you're a writer, you must write about whatever people want to read about, you know. So it starts from there first of all, such that now you feel like whatever you have, you want to share it with the world. Now based on that, you can go ahead and look at various platforms. So for example, Instagram has also spread across the country, but it's mostly for the urban centers. So you'll find it mostly in the big cities, the Eldorets, the Kisumu, Mombasa. TikTok, on the other hand, has become very interesting because TikTok has everybody. So TikTok goes all the way to mashinani. Like you would be watching a random TikTok of somebody who's in Garissa, and you're actually enjoying what they're doing, you know. So TikTok is a very interesting place with very interesting sides. I was explaining this to my pastor yesterday. He was laughing because on TikTok you will find somebody who's preaching. You will also find a mortician. Do you know who a mortician is? The people who work at the morgues.
And what are they doing on TikTok?
They're showing you what they do. They're showing you the process of preparing a body. And it's, you know, it's until you watch it, you're like, okay, maybe this is something maybe you learn about. And they're very famous. The other day we had the death of one of the big TikTokers on TikTok, and his burial was yesterday, but it was yesterday. It was on Tuesday. And that burial had, I'd say, 3,000 people who are total strangers, they don't know each other. And you can look at it in different dimensions and just say that this is, because such burials were mostly left out for politicians, but this is just a random person who was just on TikTok. Then that means his influence had permeated into all the places around there. So it really boils down to what you want to communicate to the people, and then now as a result, now you can choose the specific platform. Facebook is also known to be for the older audiences. Doesn't mean it's not important. It's really, really important, and it has its audience as well. Twitter or X, nowadays it's called X. X is mostly information led. It's if you are very good at writing and sharing information and all that. It's very also a bit intellectual, but also it has a lot of madness as well. All these social media platforms have a dark side to them that now maybe we'll talk later on about how to balance all that. But now it's for you to decide based on what you want to share with the world.
So maybe you can help somebody by telling us, how did you discover what you want to put on this social media? How did you discover your calling on the message that you want to disseminate?
It starts with a burning sensation to do something. So for example, with me, I like outfits, I like clothes. So that it drew me closer to Instagram, because Instagram is more for clothes, good looking and all that stuff. I also like a lot of information. I like knowing what's happening in the world. Me, I'm the kinds of people, I get to the house, I want to watch the news. I'm like an old man. I want to understand what is happening in the whole place. So that's why I'm also closely drawn to Twitter. So why I chose Instagram, for example, is based on what I wanted to communicate, and that was more fashion. Music is also very big on Instagram, and then just communicating to people through videos. Now is when I'm starting to grow my TikTok and to become more intentional with my TikTok as well.
What about Wanjiru?
I think same thing as Ben. It's just, and we keep saying this, that for you to thrive in any social media platform, whatever you choose to speak on should be something that's like second nature to you, so that you don't have to fake it, you don't have to force yourself to do it. So just like Ben, the things that I like, I started just to communicate about them, talk about them, and with that you find like-minded people who become now your community or your followers, so to speak. So it was just
basically from what I'm reading from this is that so long as it's something that you like and you're passionate about, however niche or however small or whatever it is, you'll still get a following.
Yeah, you'll find your tribe.
So don't try to do something that is somebody else's domain. Simply because it seems to be popular or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Okay.
Don't do that, because where the world is going, it's gonna be more community centric. So you just need to find your own community. The same way you didn't know about the burial of the TikToker. There are people who are so hell bent about it, but that is just their community. You can have your own community. You can have your own Christian people. So it's just. And what we normally talk about is you don't necessarily need to focus on the big numbers. You want to get 100,000s or the millions. Those are very good and beautiful, but it's also how vibrant your community is. You can just have a community of 500, but when you say we go for an event here, they will all show up. When you say you're selling something, they will all buy. So it's about focusing on your specific community and seeing how you can grow it further and add more value to that community.
Enoch, what do you read into all this?
Well, thank you so much. I am really, I am following. You can see,
Yeah.
I am enjoying the conversation
Yeah.
and learning so much, because when you look at the era we are in, Kenya has gotten this opportunity that you get very many people who are the majors in the industry. For example, Meta was here the other day.
Yes.
And you know, they are giving you the chance to monetize, people to monetize their accounts and things like that. And you wonder, someone who is just seated there is thinking, for example, when I look at the Ciscos, they have these big numbers. And there are people who want the numbers. So I am wondering, how is it easy? Like, you've talked about, yes, the community is very important.
Yes.
For example, Kingdom Business Network, we are looking at people in business. That is our community. So I want you maybe to show us more on how you don't have the numbers, nobody knows you. Is there something you can do with the way you write, you send your message, the way you put out your information? Because there are people who are not known, but when you look at the way the machine works, the algorithms and AI, you could have a high end if you know how to maybe, I don't know, do you guys use those? Because you have the numbers, but I'm wondering, for someone who does not have numbers, nobody knows you, can you do something extra and then maybe capture their attention and grow, something like that?
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate for growing organically. I know there are ways you can play around with the algorithms, and you can sort of like play around with the apps, different apps, because I know like ads work really well to get your word out there. But why I'm saying I'm a big advocate for organic is because at the end of the day, the person behind the other screen is also a human being just like you. They're looking for a point of connection. So if you have your content wrong from the jump, no amount of sponsoring ads, no amount of whatever you do to play around the algorithm is going to help. You have to create something that the other person on the other side of the screen will feel either an emotional connection to, they'll feel whatever you are feeling or you're trying to communicate. So, and that's how we've grown so far. We try to find conversations that people we know at the end of the screen, because at the end of the day, as human beings, we're just trying to connect with each other. We're just trying to relate to each other's stories, and that's what we try to do. Yeah.
You can do that, but also consistency is a very key thing. So if you consistently drop a specific episode at a specific time, that is number one, because you see the videos online are controlled by something called algorithm. So algorithm is what decides which tweets you see, which videos come up on your Facebook. It's computerized, you know. So the algorithm also needs to pick up your consistency level at a specific time. That's number one. But also number two is you also go to the back end and you look at the content you have dropped. What's the age group of the people who are watching your content? What's the location of where they're found? For example, we noticed that with our podcast, we were getting a lot of viewership from Uganda. So that meant when we were doing the show, we need to tone down on Swahili because some people are not understanding some things that we are saying. When we started, we thought we were speaking to Nairobians. Then now it's gone to people in Mombasa and all across the country. So when you look at the numbers and they're telling you you're getting listenership from Uganda, it means you need to tone down on Swahili and have more English so that you can communicate with them better. Because you see, when you're approaching the digital space, you need to stop approaching it from a limited mindset where you're just looking at Nairobi and know that this is a global machine that you could easily even blow up in Russia, and now you'll be confused. So when you go to the back end, you look at your videos and say, this video had the most views. Why did it have more views? Why was the audience particularly interested in this video? Then what you did there, you can start replicating it more and more and more and more. Because they say numbers do not lie. And it's very good now on a business scale, you look at those numbers and they will direct you somewhere. Yeah.
Now, before we go ahead, there's somebody out there who is thinking of getting started.
Yes.
Walk us through the process of getting started. You have an idea. Might be figured out you want fashion or you want whatever it is. How does somebody get started? The equipment, the setting up. Do you need to hire a cameraman? You know, all those stories.
Yeah.
Getting started.
Why are you looking at me?
How did you start?
You start with what you have.
Yeah.
this is a Christian TV, so I'll say it's what God is asking. What do you have in your hand? And that is what God uses to perform the miracles. When I started doing the podcast, I used to use my phone. I used to record everything on my phone, and I would record the sound there and everything. And sometimes it would be good, sometimes it will just be horrible. You know, people are just complaining in the comment section. But that is what growth is about, you know. You can't sit down and wait for everything to be perfect, because then that means you keep postponing, and you might even miss the season, because we could have easily missed that season, that shift into this podcasting era. So I think you start with whatever you have. Nowadays, a lot of phones have some okay camera quality. An average phone can shoot a video where at least we can tell this is you, you know. Then maybe with time you can go upgrading your phone. So now you get to a point where for you to buy an expensive phone, you're not buying it for luxury or to show off. It's a business investment for you. So I'd say that's you start with whatever equipment you have. Later on now you can get the lights, you can now even hire, because we now have editors, we have people who shoot, so we don't take care of that at all. But when we started, Wanjiru knows how to edit. She would shoot and edit, or I would shoot and give her and try and convince her to edit for me and all that stuff. So you start with what you have. Nowadays you can even use applications on your phone like CapCut. CapCut is the one that's provided by TikTok. You just download it. It will help you edit all these videos very smoothly.
Yeah, I think same thing as Ben. You start with what you have. We started with our phones, and gradually we've gone increasing. The more money you make, you're able to buy a camera, you're able to outsource the service, maybe, as Ben has said, to a videographer or an editor. So it's literally, because the point is to get your content out there and also to be consistent. So you start with what you have.
So does it mean that even when you're using the camera, you still were growing numbers of subscribers? How was it easy? Was it?
The number of subscribers is directly related to their kind of content. So quality, yes, is a good thing, and quality is a huge plus. But it's mostly about what you're talking about.
Is a quality.
Because people will, if whatever you're talking about is interesting to somebody, if, no matter how bad your video is, they will just watch it. They will just find a way to watch it. So the quality becomes secondary.
Okay.
That's why I'm I'm insisting on, you have to get the content right first. You have to, that's why the best content is the most authentic content. So it has to be something that you could do naturally. You're not forcing, you're not struggling to fit in that space.
Okay. That's interesting. So that means anybody can get started with whatever you have. The phone, once you have a phone, you're set. The next thing you need is just those downloadable softwares. And then you get started.
Yes, exactly.
And there you go. Now, this is very interesting because here you've gotten started, and I believe you started from that level, and you started to grow. How is the journey of growth, and what are the milestones that you went through? Where did you, let's say, now start to see this thing is working?
I think it started to make sense once we started our podcast. At that point, because we, as Ben had mentioned earlier on, we were doing content individually, but also we used to collaborate once or twice on each other's platforms, on his podcast, on my channel. But then when we got married and we decided to start this platform together, we really wanted to put our money where our mouth is. So we took our savings and we said we're going to hire a producer. We really didn't want to get caught up in the same rat race that we had been caught up in when we were starting out. We really wanted to show that there's been growth. There has been this journey imefika hapa, na sasa it's time to progress to the next level. So we decided let's onboard a third person. His name is Barak. He's part of the podcast, the Joyride podcast. And then now we decided let's also hire professionals for that. So editors, videographers, people who can really churn out the kind of content that we're doing. It wasn't enough to rely on our brains. We know we needed other perspectives. And that's now we started to see that the audience is appreciating it more and more and more. And I think that's when now our journey really took off.
Okay. I always hear that, or rather let me say, I've heard some YouTubers say that there's that one video that you did and blew. Yeah? Which one was it, and what was it about, and when was that?
For us,
I don't know if you've had one.
I think it's the one when before we were married. It's the ones where I would go on her channel and she would challenge me to style her. There was the styling one. There was one where she challenged me to do makeup to see if I know how to do makeup.
You actually did makeup on her?
Yes, it was horrible.
How was it? You must have been laughing the whole throughout the show.
It was horrible. And then there was one where we were doing accent challenges. She was challenging me to do different accents. So those are some of the videos that really blew up. So now when we started the Joyride together, I think now Joyride did not have a specific hit video. But of course the ones we've done with big personalities like Abel Mutua, the one you did with Nameless and Wahoo, Jugush, those ones also, those ones are very big. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you've had any. As Ben has said, I think even those videos, more than being a hit, they introduced the audience to us, but then we've had to prove ourselves more and more and more with the kind of content that we do. So I don't know if there's a specific video we can speak about. I think we have proven ourselves over and over with the kind of content in every video.
Okay. So coming from 1 subscriber to 1,000 subscriber, how is that journey?
It was interesting because growing with subscribers on YouTube is the hardest thing you can do. Actually, it's easier to get followers, it's easier to get likes, but growing subscribers, that's where the challenge is. When we hit the 10,000 mark, because we hit 10,000 subscribers in 3 days. I remember. You remember?
3 days, 10,000.
Yes,
from what to what?
From zero.
From 0 to 10,000.
10,000
in 3 days.
Yes, and that was such a big milestone for us. And it's just been, now with the consistency, continuous growth over and over, the subscribers keep growing, you keep now learning. But you see, it's not easy because you also get hate. The more your content grows, the more people it reaches out to now. Now, the more people you are annoying, and the more people you're making happy. So in as much as this social media thing looks like it's the most glamorous thing, it's also one of the hardest things. It could drive you crazy if you don't know how to handle it, because now you will start getting attacks from different people. So you have to stay grounded. So the numbers just keep growing. We are now looking to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year.
You see, I hear people say that in media, maybe you can correct me, even bad news is very good news to the person concerned. Because like your haters, they'll actually propel you to the next level. Because they're talking about you. Basically, it's about people talking about you. Whether good or bad, people are talking about you. So if somebody says something nasty about you, somebody else will go and check you out and find out, this guy is not what we thought. In the process, you have a new subscriber, isn't it? So what did you do to this, Enoch, before we take a break?
Sure, thank you so much. I love that conversation. And when you talked about the negative side, having these haters, in marketing, now that is publicity. Someone hates on you, he doesn't know that he's really, publicizing you. So what I'm learning from you, Cycos, is that you guys have been, deliberate at whatever strike you make. There are 3 principles I always look for: being deliberate, being intentional. Even when you had these people who are trying to sway you away, you are really focused, and then you are purposeful. The consistency. I think this is something that I've not had in a long time. From 0 to 10K, that is amazing. In 3 days, that is really amazing. But I know the journey. We always encourage entrepreneurs here that it is all about the journey. My mentor, Bishop Peter, always says, small things grow. Small things grow. Some may take maybe days, weeks, years, or whatever, but the principle is it grows.